So he brings a unique perspective, and then I just am here to talk. So it's going to be a fun time. Manny, how you doing?
Oh, fantastic, Ace. We're going to enjoy this. And there's so many things out there that are for the serious fan, the one that really wants to know more. And that's where we're going to be heading into today.
Yeah, I think when people watch this, hopefully it's a calming thing that they can watch. We're not trying to blow your ears up or do anything crazy. We're not trying to do anything like that. We're just trying to help people's understanding of football because there's a lot of misconceptions. A lot of people want to know what is a coach thinking in that moment. And hopefully we can give them that, especially from your experience. But right now, let's bring in a video, which then you can explain, and we immediately can show off the bat what an aficionado thinks of another coach's speak. So here is Kurt Signetti, who actually is coaching in the national championship for college football. Let's hear from Kurt.
Always playing at your best level. You got to have physical toughness to play this game because it's a physical game. You play with your pads on, and that's what we want to be. We want to be a physical, relentless football team that keeps coming after you 60 minutes, one play at a time. And consequently, subsequently, once our guys have paid the price and kind of bought in, which they've done a great job up to this point of buying in, they develop a lot of pride. Now, we want to win championships here at IUP. We want to compete for championships year in, year out. We want to be champions on the field, champions off the field. But to me, it's more important to buy into the process of doing things right, coming to work every day with the right mental attitude, with the goal being improvement. Just improve every single day. It's our job as coaches to provide the fundamentals, the techniques, to be the teachers so that our student athletes can be successful. It's their job to come to work every day with the right mental attitude, with the focus on improvement. And if we do that, we'll achieve the desired result. And that's how we play the game. It doesn't matter what the score is. We're playing one play at a time, 6 seconds of play. Every play has a life and a history of its own. Play smart, play hard, play tough, play. When that play's over, it's on to the next play. You got to have a short memory in this game, okay? But eventually, if our guys are buying into that process and we're a physical, dominant football team, we want to eventually break our opponent's will. Sometime in the second half, we want to break their will so that week in and week out, whoever we are playing, when they see IUP come up on the schedule, they say to themselves, oh no, we got to play these guys this week. And that's who we want to be. We want to be the toughest, most physical team in the league, but I also want to be the smartest team in the league, have the highest football IQ in the league, be the least.
Now, here's what people are thinking when they're watching this. So it's like when you're seeing Kurt Signetti, and this is years ago at the beginning of his career, what resonates with me is something that a lot of people out there, the casual fan, is seeing this coach like, oh my goodness, it's all coach speak. He's fired up. What is he saying to his team? However, there's an underlying layer to everything you're seeing here. First off, you got to go back in time. Like, where did this philosophy really come from? Actually, it didn't even come from football. Even though he's applied it to football, where I know it came from is a basketball coach, a guy named
Okay.
John Wooden. Because John Wooden, that was his deal. When you go back and you look at the archives of what John was saying, nobody's won like John Wooden. It don't matter what the sport is, 11 national titles, the whole bit, right? He never spoke about winning, ever. Now you go back and you take a look at what Coach Signetti said. He didn't say about winning. He talked about improvement. That's what you can control. So I can draw from that from a few experiences. Number one, I remember when I was at Texas Tech with Mike Leach, right? And we went to California to recruit. And one of the things he wanted to do, he wanted to meet John Wooden. So we called UCLA. We went to his office. It was awesome. He spent a whole afternoon with us. And we learned from then that it wasn't about winning, because everybody thinks, oh, you got to win. Just the old Al Davis thing, just win, baby. Totally. That's when you don't win, when you're thinking about winning and you're not thinking about the day-to-day process. It's also something that so many coaches have taken from Coach Wooden. I think about Tom Osborne at the University of Nebraska. He, for the longest time, he had great teams, but didn't win a national title. he had, like Wooden had, a pyramid of success that was everywhere. So building blocks, which is exactly what Kurt Signetti is talking about, the building blocks of creating your team without thinking about winning. How do you show up? And I was fortunate, I was with Bill Snyder at Kansas State. Same thing. He never talked about winning. It was all about what you do day to day. Is it an effort that's going to get us where it needs to be? So that's why I think when you're looking at this as an aficionado, you want to think, okay, where in the world does this come from? Because it's not what you think it is. It's not, everybody says, oh, coach speak. It's not coach speak. It's actually coming from a true philosophy, almost a stoicism that comes out in what Kurt Signetti is saying. And I guarantee you, he studies the Stoics, no doubt about it.
Look at that. We are definitely aficionados. You're already pulling out the thesaurus words like stoicism. I absolutely love it, coach. So
Yeah.
you're talking about being an aficionado, about getting to the core of what you're seeing, of what these coaches are talking about. I want to open it up to you to talk about why this show, why you think a show like this is important in the modern day and age of football media.
What I believe is that there's so much volume out there. There's so much like loud noises, Barstool Sports, and they sensationalize everything that's going on out there.
Oh, everything is
Everything,
even on
right?
sidelines, right?
Yes. Right. They're trying to get that moment where they say something that goes viral. Honestly, the key in my mind is, what are you doing to stay away from viral, to actually give the aficionado, guys like us, guys, you right there that's listening to this out here, it's like, it's got to be more about the craft, right? You've got to understand what it really takes to create that. So you draw from what Signetti said, and that makes sense. But I think it's more about reaction over responsibility. Right? So the reason we're here is, look, football is taught. It's not a caveman deal. It is very cerebral. The game of all games out there that we can watch, there's nothing more cerebral than football. It's built that way. A lot of moving parts. You've got people on the field that, in essence, why I believe football is the most popular sport in the United States right now is that anybody can look on the field and say that guy looks like me in one way. So you got big people, you got little guys, you've got tall people, you've got all these. And if you go to an NBA game, you're not getting that. They're all freaking, they're huge.
Yes.
Not your normal person, are they?
I agree. You go to an NBA game, even the shortest guy on the court is still going to dwarf you if you went and walked. Maybe not everybody, but I know me, I'm only a 5'7" short king. There's not that many guys in
Yeah.
sports that I can, see myself in. But in football, yeah, there are the Danny Woodheads, there are the Wes Welkers, the lunch pail guys, which I, for some reason, have always fallen into that category. But I love how you brought that up. And I think it's funny because you mentioned that Kurt Signetti in that whole speech, he didn't talk about winning, but then one of his most famous quotes nowadays is just, they said, "What do you attribute your success to?" And he said, "I win games. Google me."
He does.
Awesome. He does talk about winning, but the speech that we watched is really the foundation that he built that upon. And I also liked how he put a lot of it back on the players. The players have to show up and want to play.
No
But
question. Yeah. Yeah.
now
So
we have shown that you have the aficionado. We've shown that you have the cerebral, that you can talk the talk because you've walked the walk. Let's get into our first segment, which is going to be called Been There, Coached That. All right. So, coach, the first segment, Been There, Coach That. This is just where I'm going to bring up a question, something that a fan would most likely have when watching a football game, after a football game. And then because you have been there and coached that, you can give us your background on it, what's actually happening, and an insight that the casual fan might not know.
okay, let's go. I'm here.
All right.
Okay.
So the first question that I have is that a lot of coaches, especially when a coach is known to be on a hot seat, people complain that coach is now playing not to lose instead of playing to win. I have all this Baylor stuff behind me. This is said a lot about Dave Aranda, especially in the last 2 seasons. So this question hits home for me because I've been watching it play out. In your opinion, Are coaches playing not to lose, or are they just getting a little more conservative? What's actually happening there?
I think inherently, when they're in that situation, you talk about Dave, for instance, right? You're saying, hey, they're listening to the noise of the people out there, possibly. So when we say they're playing not to lose, Ace, it's more of a concept of, you know what? We as fans think he's on the hot seat, right? Dave is a really analytical guy, right? And knowing him the way I know him, he was our graduate assistant at Texas Tech. I know he's way more cerebral than that. So even though that play as a fan you're looking at, he's playing not to lose. He really, most likely, knowing his personality, he's not. He's playing a calculated game. Now, here's where it's a little bit different. When you
Okay.
think about what that coach's background is, most coaches I know that are defensive coaches, fans would say they're playing not to lose. They're not rolling the dice to make these things happen. So the example you're giving me of a one of the top defensive coaches in the country, pretty appropriate for defensive coaches. And that's just how it is. He worked for Mike Leach. I guarantee you, Mike Leach never, ever once played not to lose. So that's how I see it.
I love that you keep bringing up Mike Leach. Kurt Signetti, he comes from the Saban coaching tree. You come from the Mike Leach coaching tree. Similar philosophies, different ways that they executed it. Obviously, Mike Leach was loved a lot more for a lot more personality than I would say Saban's ever given. So it's cool to see both sides of it, especially coming into this already. My second question, to tie it into the first question, is that when you're watching a game, the head coach is taking the brunt of, I don't know, the negativity coming from reporters and fans before and after game about play calls. But a lot of head coaches have coordinators. Some call offense or defense, but let's take Dave Aranda for our example. A lot of people, when you say that you're playing not to lose, they're criticizing offensive play calls. Dave does
Yeah.
not call offensive play calls. Right now,
Uh,
it's Jake Spavital. So
yeah.
what is actually happening during the game? How much of a say does the head coach actually have in the play calls mid game? They obviously are a part of the game plan, but then in game, what's happening?
Okay. So one answer doesn't cover all this. All right.
That's fair.
So how I look at it is there's a structure to a coaching staff, and every coaching staff can be in a few different areas. There are very few coaches like a Nick Saban that are a master of all sides of the ball: offense, defense, special teams. He actually infuses his thought process to each coordinator. Now, most coaches I know, they take another viewpoint. Hey, I'm a defensive guy. I'm locked into the defense. And then the guys that are, or an offensive guy, here's Lane Kiffin, for instance, offensive guy, but he's more locked into that and he lets that defense do what they need to do. Right. So that's the other way. And then there's that whole hands off type deal, a game manager, a guy that oversees and can make the decisions at key times. When are you calling timeouts? What are you reminding that player of? And most importantly, when you're talking to coordinators, you're that guy. I think of a guy like, of course, Urban Meyer would be a good example of that, right? He's got his hands in all these different things, right? And then during the game, I know for a fact I've got guys that were his coordinators and they may call a play, but he has the automatic ability to veto that play, right? And say, no, I want this, or he'll tell you what he wants. And then you've got to look through your Rolodex of plays to make that play call. So there's really three ways it's structured, right? And you've got to see how that is built. We could look at any college football program, any NFL program, and be able to do that. Now, in the National Football League, there's very few guys that actually call their plays, head coaches. It's rare, right? There are
Yeah.
some that do a really good job of it, but there's just not very many. So it's more of a CEO type of role that those head coaches are playing. It's more about the structure as opposed to anything else.
Yeah. And you also see some coaches. You have Mike McDaniel, who just got fired from the Dolphins. You have Kevin O'Connell over on the Vikings. And some people are like, you should give up the play calling because you need to be paying more attention to the game management, like you talked about, to the timeouts, to making decisions when it comes to injuries and penalties and all this stuff. It's too much to do play calling. I don't necessarily think it's too much. Coaches have been doing it forever, but it's something cool. Maybe we'll talk about that another time. The last
Sure.
question I had for been there, coach that is going to be the opposite side of the ball. So instead of the opposite side of the conversation. So instead of playing not to lose, we're saying playing very aggressively. And I specifically want to talk about fourth down. A lot of teams are going for it on fourth down now. There are some teams like the Detroit Lions that go for it on fourth down more than they don't. And that has been a shift in football in the past probably decade, where you used to see coaches never go for it on fourth down. They'd always kick a field goal or punt. And now we're seeing a complete shift because of analytics or just the way that fans are pressuring coaches. I'm not totally sure what it is. So you've been there, you've coached that. What are you seeing that's making that shift towards being more aggressive?
I think the whole validity today of analytics, like think about this. 10 years ago, we say analytics. What are you talking about? You don't know. The only analytics we used to have as coaches was the 2-point play charts. Should you go for two or not? You'd have the chart, the guy in the press box
Yeah.
said, "Now, coach, you got to go for two or not." Right. Now, every situation is analyzed through analytics. So we talk about the situation in Detroit, Fred. You just said, hey, this guy's going for it all the time. I think some coaches use the analytics as an excuse to roll the dice more often than not. They say, what's okay, fine. And then they start getting used to, I'm just going to go for it all the time. I see a lot of in the Lions specifically. So I think the analytics of the game are a bit of a crutch for coaches. So let's take what I feel the human side out of the game and let the computer tell us what to do. Because the human side might be, you know what? I'm actually watching this game and I know my players. I was in the trenches with these guys, right? And I'm
Yes.
seeing what they're going through. When the O line comes off the sideline, I see their body language. I see what they're talking about. That to me is more powerful than analytics. Analytics is just, oh, you should think about doing this. But I think that next generation coach is going to be the one that is a master psychologist, one that understands his players at a level so exact that when he makes the call, the analytics might say, no, you should be kicking a field goal, but he knows what those guys have been through, what they're talking about, their body language. And you know what? He makes the call to go for it. And by God, they get it.
Mhm.
That's what I think is going to eventually happen with the great coaches that win Super Bowls and titles.
I like it. And I like what you're saying that the analytics, it's not that it changed the way the coaches were going about it. It gave them an excuse to do what they wanted to do. Where, I don't know, at some point, I think the Lions, it's not even that it's analytics or anything. It's that Dan Campbell, at this point, I think if he doesn't go for it, he feels like people are going to say he's losing his edge or something. I feel like he's almost dug himself into a hole with it. Like
Yeah.
he has to go for it on fourth down. But yeah, there you go. That we have gone and now we have done 3 questions of been there, coach that. And coach, I think you nailed them. I think you gave us some sweet insight on that stuff. Things that I wasn't thinking about, honestly, on a few of them, which
Well,
is
that's
the
what we
point
do.
of why we're doing this.
It's just where are we on the level of being an aficionado, right? So I think that's the beauty of having these conversations.
I agree. So now that we've done that, let's move on to segment 3, where it's the state of the game. This is where we're just going to zoom out a little bit. We're going to look at the whole thing. We're going from the micro to the macro. We're looking at football as a whole. And I'm going to ask you a question, coach. That question right now is, what is one trend in football currently that you think is misunderstood? This is a very broad question. Luckily, we have a few notes and we prepped a little bit. So hopefully you know what you're going to talk about, because I would freeze at this question. What do you got,
Well,
coach?
I think the one trend that is misunderstood right now is putting yourself in a situation where you feel that your team is going out there, you're playing a game, and you're just letting it all go toward analytics. You're just letting that is a massive trend. And I know we talked about a little bit more earlier, but I think analytics are, I don't think it gives a coach enough of what he really needs to, what his role is. And I think that it's overblown when you're watching, especially in the NFL. They've got these analytics and they're
Oh, they
talking about,
literally pop up on the screen, right?
oh, yeah.
They show you percentages.
Yeah, I don't like it, but it keeps people engaged, almost like a gambler's mentality. Oh, they should do this, right?
Yeah.
So I'm sure in Vegas they're utilizing that because they're seeing the trend of the game go more towards that. So I'm sure there are handicappers out there that are studying it and decisions are made because Ace, I don't bet, but I'll tell you what, the sports books, I'm with buddies, we'll be at a casino and they'll be watching games and they're like, okay, here's the game at halftime. And now I'm going to bet on the second half. So during the game, they're changing their bets to hedge, right?
Mm.
And I think it's all based on what the analytics are saying. So that's a trend that I totally see in that regard.
I see that as well. And I like that you brought up betting because I do think about that. The fact that live betting has become a thing and mid game you can start betting on things.
Yeah.
I think that it actually leads. I know why they did it because they want to give us more ways to gamble so that we can spend more money. But I think it lends itself to the gambler because you can already be watching the game. And like you said, you see how the players are reacting to things, you see the feel of the game. A score can be one way where one team has just had a couple turnovers so they're tied up, but they're absolutely outplaying them. And you think in the second half, they're going to clean it up. It's going to be better. Being able to understand the feel of the game, not just looking at it analytically through numbers. Right. And so I like that
Right.
you said that. And then the second question I have for you on this is how do you think that? So let's go with analytics. How do you think that analytics has changed the way that football is talked about? We've hit how it's being coached, right? It's
Yeah.
affecting coaches, it's affecting their play calling. How is it changing the way that people like me and you, people on television, on ESPN, and then people down at their local dive bar talking about the game? How has analytics changed that?
I think the general public, it has changed the way they're looking at it because of things like DraftKings and all that. I think it's only changed it because of gambling. That's it in the end, because it's like you're having the conversation. It's like, how would I use this to make money? Because it's a huge deal.
Yeah.
Gambling, it's massive. And that's the biggest issue I see with this right now. People are talking about it, but they're talking about it through the lens of somebody that can actually get their phone out, make a bet based on what they notice.
Yeah.
And that's what I notice.
No, sports betting, absolutely. It's $1 billion market and it is changing the game a lot. The fact that it's changing laws, we're being able to bet in more and more states nowadays. A story that I have personally that really showed me how much sports betting is affecting just the sports world in general. So if you look behind me, I have some USFL balls because the way I got into podcasting and sports is through the USFL in 2022. I was able to meet a lot of cool people and talk to a lot of cool guys. One guy I never spoke to was the head coach of the New Orleans Breakers, Larry Fedora. I asked a couple questions in the podcast or in the pressers, but I never got to go and talk to him. Now, fast forward to 2025, I get called for jury duty here in Waco. I'm upset. I don't want to go. I have to take the day off work. I walk in. I'm not allowed to bring my cell phone in. I'm like, I'm not going to know anybody. I don't want to talk to anybody. I come in, sign in, turn around. Who's sitting there with an open seat next to them but Larry Fedora? So I go, yes. My wife was like, "What? How do these things always happen to you?" I was like, "I don't know, man. Things happen to me." So I go over, I sit down, I play it cool, and then I creep in. I go, "Are you Larry Fedora?" I knew from the moment I walked in. I end up talking to him. We talked the whole time. Me and Larry we were like, it was like we were in high school in class whispering while the teacher's talking because we're sitting there and they're trying to talk to us about this case. It was about patent law. Nobody cared. It was so boring. So I was just picking his brain. And he was talking to me about Russ Brandon and the starting of 2022 USFL football. And he goes, "Do you know why they started that league?" He goes, "Do you know why they got it greenlit by Fox?" And I was like, "Because there's so many players out there that they need the chance to fill the spring section with football. There was a market there." He goes, "No, betting." He said, "Betting." So what do you mean? He said they want more leagues that people can bet on because it
No,
makes so much money. He goes, "If you think that Fox and Russ Brandon and the people that were starting this league weren't getting a cut of DraftKings, because that was the big one that was covering USFL, he was like, you're crazy. They started that league for betting." And that blew my mind. I was so into it for the players. I was so into it for the fact that it was a historic league, that we had football in the spring, and it all was just betting. So that's my little story. My name drop, Larry Fedora.
I love that story, Face.
And it blew my mind.
It's funny as you say that. I think about something that we are passionately involved in, which is the Continental Football League. Now, the Continental Football League, for you that are in here, that aficionado, it's the only league that plays outdoors in the summertime, which actually gives us football year round. It's amazing. Outdoor
Who wouldn't
professional
want that?
football, summertime. This is so amazing that we're part of this. And when you bring up to me what Coach Fedora said, the gambling lens, I know from having talks with owners and the way this thing is built, eventually that's going to happen. All
Yeah.
right. Because think about it. Football is the one sport you can bet on any sport you want, but it is the most gambled upon team sport that exists.
I'm
Nothing
glad you
like
said team sport, because I was going to say, I think horse racing might have it beat out, especially
Yeah.
the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah. So I actually have some experience there. I've got a young man that works in Las Vegas. He has a website called pregame.com. His name is, he would be commonly known as RJ Bell. All right. RJ Bell, syndicated Fox podcast. He's from my hometown, this little town in Ohio. He and
Nice.
my brother are best friends. You know who I'm talking about?
Not specifically.
Okay.
RJ Bell.
RJ Bell. We're going to put RJ Bell right here. So later
On the
when
screen, we're going to show him.
we're going to show him. Okay. So RJ
I'm going to look
Bell
him up
is,
while you're talking about him. Why
yeah,
not?
go for it. All right. So RJ Bell is one of the top 10 sports books, gambling experts in the world and he's amazing. He's from my hometown. And what's interesting is we're, as a league, we're getting insight from him. How could we build this up properly? Now, you would think one
Mhm.
thing is, okay, the Continental Football League first season being played is summer of 2026. So it's almost impossible, from my understanding, to start gambling and betting on these teams because there's no data points. You just don't have any
Yeah.
way to set lines, so to speak. So what has been recommended of all things is to start it out with fantasy football. All right. Fantasy football. Get
Oh,
people involved in it. You see? Now, Ace, think about this. You start with fantasy football, people engage their favorite players, they start to get into the Continental Football League. Now that over time, as you're playing games over a period of maybe 3 to 5 years, and there's stability and the things that we know the Continental Football League is going to build, it's going to be like a instant, like turn it on. Now you've got football game gambling 12 months. Because even the UFL as it exists right now, it doesn't take them all the way to NFL games. So I think that's a benefit for what we are actively involved in, and that is the Continental Football.
no. And I agree with what you said about the analytical points. When a new league starts, how do you set lines? And that was actually something we took advantage of in the USFL, in the UFL. There's so much turnover every year. And the thing is, week one, they always set the over under too high. So
Yeah.
we've been doing it all 4 years that it's happened, that we just bet the unders on all the games. And you are absolutely going to be up money in the first week or two because teams just don't have it
Sure.
together yet. They have 2 weeks of training camp. And then all of a
Mhm.
sudden they have a 54-point line and they're not even getting close. So I like that you brought up the fact that you don't have any prior knowledge. It's not the NFL or college football where you've been watching these players and they've been playing together. These players have been playing with these coaches. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see because I was thinking about that story with Larry and how they started the USFL for betting. And then I was thinking about how now with this Continental Football League, I was like, we haven't even talked about betting. Like, I haven't mentioned it once with the other management group of the Toros. So it's just a far cry from what I was watching, but I digress. Okay, so now that we've spoken about the state of the game as a whole, I think it's important to talk about what our show is named after. We put aficionado on there because the aficionado angle is what we're going for. Manny, I wanted to open it up to you because you know much more football than I do. For you to explain the importance of what we're doing and why this show, why now?
Yeah, I think it's come of age, right? Like a fine wine or anything like that. It takes time to figure things out and make it right. I'm sitting here, I'm having a wonderful bourbon right here. Willet is what I'm enjoying through this show. And to me, the aficionado, it's taking somebody from being anybody who wants to be a serious fan, guy, lady, girl, whoever, really wants to lift the veil on the game of football. And ideas are passed on through so many people. I want this to be the way that you can come in here and engage at a much higher level talking about football and getting some insight that you can't get on just the regular crowd noise, the media noise that's out there. So the aficionado is basically that person, right? The one that loves the finer things in life. There's a magazine called Cigar Aficionado. So maybe you like to smoke cigars. Great. This is for you. You love football. Fantastic. You love a really high end bourbon. This is for you. Okay. So things like that. Now, what's the end game of this? So, as an aficionado, what we are doing is, yes, Ace and I are having these live conversations on a regular basis. Also, we will start bringing in some really amazing guests to our show, and we'll have those recorded. Those are our vault episodes. And then we're going to even have some really deep fireside chats, coaches that you'll know, or maybe people that you didn't realize. Maybe somebody could be in the bourbon industry, right? Could be in the cigar industry, could be in like high end tailgating. It's for that. We're going to learn and impart all that to you. But in the end, very soon, we are going to be launching a special biannual, 2 times a year magazine that will come to your house. You can't buy this on the newsstand. So, Gridiron Aficionado is a magazine that when you have it on your coffee table, I guarantee you, your friends are going to see it and you got to watch it. They're going to steal it. As simple as that. They're going to say, where did you get that? They're going to want that. So, to give you a visual of what it is, this is a typical old school magazine, the size of it, right? Football magazine that exists. All right. And I'm going to put up next to it the size and the scope of what Gridiron Aficionado is. Now, so hold your hat here. I'll put it behind the actual magazine. Okay. So we're talking about massive difference here. Okay. So I know the people that have run some magazines like this that are real high end, but this is what it is. It's going to be like twice a year. Almost think of the word I would think is bespoke. Like you get something nobody else gets. It's not just a magazine. It's going to come in a well packaged piece for you twice a year. And it's going to give you so much insight that all of a sudden, not only from watching our shows here and seeing all the things we're doing, you're going to personally be able to know things that your friends wish they knew. You're going to have all kinds of wonderful in-depth stories. So that's the Gridiron Aficionado. You go to your tailgates, whoever you support, you're going to have all kinds of insight that they won't have. And now you are literally middle of any party you want to be at. So that's that, Ace. That's the gridiron aficionado. That's where we're headed to.
I love that it's the coffee table piece, but it's also the size of some coffee tables. It's amazing. It's
So
going to
it's
be a
going to be so
massive
good.
magazine.
Yeah,
But it's
love it.
cool. I especially love that right now my wife is in multiple book clubs because books and written word is coming back. People like to hold it. So I think it's a perfect time to have something like that come back. And then we have built-ins in our living room. I can't wait to throw it up there and then have people ask me about it. I think it's going to be a cool thing to have and to be a part of. But Coach, that's all we had for episode 1 right now. Just give everybody a taste of what it's like to come in, sip a whiskey, sip a bourbon, and talk to a football aficionado. Obviously, you, not me. I'm just here. I'm just here to talk and lead the conversation. But
Hey,
Coach, this
cheer
has
my
been a great
man. We're
one.
gonna have so much fun
I think
building
so
this.
too. But before we go, do you have anything you want to say to the listeners out there?
You know what? Enjoy your life. Get one shot to do this. We all love the sport of football. It's fantastic. It's something that I think it's about your relationships that you're building in your life. It's about friends, family, and that team or teams that you follow. Cheers to you. Let's enjoy this moving forward.
Well, you brought up the friends and the team. Guys, we want you to be on our team. We want to be your friends and we want you to feel like you're a part of the conversation. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, like it, share it with your friends. Let's all join the conversation. Let's all become gridiron aficionados. So I think this is going to be really cool. And then make sure that you head over to our website as well, just because you want to get on that list. If you would like to get the magazine, if you want your friends to want to steal something on your coffee table, go over and get on that. But for now, just hit that subscribe button so that we can keep talking to you in our calm, cool conversation on Gridiron Aficionado.